All right, it is now story time, or rather, reading time. I have been practicing this and I hope that it goes well. As you can see, I have my microphone. I've been using it on a stand to see if it picks up my voice fairly well, and it seems to be working all right. Not the greatest, but it seems like a little bit of an improvement. And right now I'm going to hold it though because I would like to get the vocal quality as strong as I can. I do hope to eventually be doing audiobooks. I have been working to soundproof the room. It's not perfect yet, little bits here, little bits there. So feel free to let me know if the overall quality is working for you, if it's too distracting. And the other thing I would add is this is going to be pretty much a straight run through, so I won't be able to fix minor errors and such as I would in post in doing an Audible book. So I hope that you enjoy. This is the first chapter of Cursed, which is now live. This is set before the Tue-Rah Falls in the Tue-Rah Chronicles, and it focuses primarily on Natas, who is the middle son of the three brothers who are trying to conquer all of creation in the Tue-Rah Chronicles. So, I hope you enjoy. Cursed, Chapter 1, A Bad Day. Natas studied the latest reports finely printed on pressed parchment. Didia's usual chipper attitude typically bled through everything, including her handwriting, but today her mood matched his, and the neat lines dipped consistently downward. 4 more Nieb children had vanished, 2 more Belorn children as well, all under the age of 3. This made 37 children missing in total in the past 2 weeks alone. 28 Nieb, 6 Belorn, and 3 Diablo. During the time leading up to the festival season, it wasn't uncommon for 1 or 2 children to go missing, but only temporarily, and in most cases the children were recovered within a matter of hours. This time, though, Natas examined the list of names and details around each disappearance. Locating the occasional lost waif wasn't among his normal tasks, but Didia and Alvol knew to bring larger matters to his attention, and these disappearances, if his own instincts were correct, were certainly nefarious. He circled the desk, tapping his fingers against the edge. There were more than a few disturbing possibilities for so many disappearances, particularly before a death moon. It was disturbing business, but it was best to deal with it now, before Sonara brought him word of the council's decision on his betrothal and marriage. Natas crossed the thick black shelves on the east wall. The large white-caped cobras that guarded the more dangerous tomes slithered along. The nearest flicked its purple tongue at him. His attention focused on the books. He let the nearest snake slide up his arm. Even if they bit him, it was of little consequence. He had developed an immunity to their venom long ago. Few others had, which made the serpents ideal to protect the volumes of the forbidden arts. The volumes of the forbidden arts took up more than 3 shelves, organized in order from the least requirements of pain and suffering, all the way to the most excruciating deaths possible. Thousands of potions, weavings, incantations, and more filled these leather covers. Each volume was made with side-sealed Turlin wax paper, allowing the pages to be unstuck with heat and then restuck with pressure. Thus, they could be updated, though that was a tedious process. But even if they had been on a Sikkim where technology was greatly advanced, these books were not circulated or allowed in virtual form. That was far too dangerous. Natas chose the book at the end, a book dedicated to incantation requiring the deaths of children and infants. Unpleasant reading even in the best of circumstances. But as he pored over the various dark spells, he realized that there was one person he had to find. The current facts suggested one incantation in particular, perhaps the worst of these, the Blood Curse, also known as Sevros or the Butcher's Pact. Through the sacrifice of 40 children and the taking of their lifeblood, a female infant could be imbued with the strongest gifts of her race and then pass these on to her children, potentially along with the racial gifts of the father, thus creating a new race. One of the key requirements was the testicles of the father of the female infant, and though at the time it had seemed that the act had been an expression of frustration, and one which the woman had continually threatened, Natas now suspected it was even more sinister. He needed to talk to Solanka. Natas lifted his head as soft footsteps drew near, confident, almost mocking. You were listening, he said. I am always listening. Solanka appeared from the shadows of the far bookshelf. She was wrapped in a great black fur cloak that covered her fully, and she moved as easily as if she floated. Her eyes glinted in the torchlight, inky brown but appearing indigo when the shadows fell right. It is rude to eavesdrop on another sentient. Natas closed the book, but he did not take his eyes off her. As a Nieb, she could read all layers of his mind unless he took careful steps to prevent it. He shrouded so many thoughts that his mind was quite taxed. Hiding his plans for the Tue-Rah was especially challenging. Letting Solanka know he was annoyed was preferable to her knowing his deeper plans. You are a beast, not a sentient. Solanka stopped at the edge of the fireplace. One must always be on guard when the catamount haunts the lodge. Natas stood and returned the book to the shelf. Nieb often had piercing eyes, capable of gazes that could leave one's soul utterly exposed. Depending on the Nieb, the experience could be either disarmingly soothing or viciously judgmental. Solanka was far more the latter, and she made no attempt to hide her loathing of him. What's this? Restraint from the creature that broke the council table? Solanka clicked her tongue as she circled him. Her energy was different today, quicker, sharper, tenser. You don't fool me, Natas. Your human facade is fading. Natas almost wished that he had infested his private study with spiders. Solanka, like most Nieb, feared those so viscerally that she would not dare to enter. But there were many other Nieb he did not want to terrify. If only he could get a Diablo powerful enough to make her think spiders lurked in every darkened corner. Of course, the Diablo would have to be exceptionally gifted if his natural illusionary gifts were to fool Solanka. Most Nieb could see through Diablo illusions with ease. Ah, there it is. Solanka smiled. She sat in his chair and unfastened her cloak. In her arms she held her daughter, Kylona, an infant little older than 3 months. Hear the savage growl, my darling. Don't ever be fooled by a Votrian. Some are smiles and sunshine, but in the end they are all animals. Kylona whimpered. She was a far smaller infant than Natas expected. Most Nieb were small compared to all races but the Mache. Yet Kylona was pale rather than ruddy-cheeked and bonier than she should have been. She didn't appear to have grown at all. This is not an appropriate place for a child, Natas said. You're the one who made it this way. Solanka rested Kylona in the crook of her arm. She shushed her daughter, tapping her on the nose with a gloved finger. And you are the one who wanted to see me. She arched her eyebrow. Let's make this quick. I don't want to keep you from being rejected yet again, nor should you enter uninvited. See? Solanka pointed at him, looking down at her daughter. The animal lurks within. The skin, the clothes, the face, it's all a game. I have seen his brother crawling on all fours like a beast, slavering, snarling, biting. They almost had to kill him. Yes, they did. Tell me. She glanced up, her smile slightly wider. Has your brother even left your chambers, or are you still hiding him? Natas slammed the stone on his desk. Speak of my brother like that again, and I will throw you out, child and all. The cold smile remained planted on Solanka's lips. Kylona wailed. Just a game. Why are you here? Natas demanded. You wanted to see me. You didn't come because of that. Natas could have said more. It was obvious that she had been spying on him, regardless of the prohibitions against such acts. Indeed, her monitoring his thoughts would have been the only way she could have known to enter when she did. It wouldn't surprise him in the slightest if Solanka was practicing the forbidden arts as well, perhaps even using them to cloak herself and prevent detection. But this was not how he would have confronted her. I'm always near. Ever since my husband's death, what am I to do with myself? Mourn, perhaps. Kylona has done more than enough of that for both of us. Solanka popped Kylona lightly on the cheek as the child continued wailing. She hardly stops. As if to prove the point, Kylona continued to shriek. Her cries were so loud they cut into his mind like a blade. Then leave and tend her. It's so true. Solanka lifted Kylona to her shoulder and patted her on the back. She took care not to let Kylona touch the bare skin of her neck. One dissolves and the other fades. The other untethered will float. But what of you, O darkened mind, O flint-hearted soul? I think madness is your end, heat and flame that consume you from the inside out and destroy your very name. It was difficult to keep his thoughts and emotions shielded. Natas paced around her, resisting the urge to clench his fist. If you are behind these abductions, if you are practicing the forbidden arts, I will find out. Will you? Solanka grinned. She continued to pat Kelowna's back. The infant quieted. Wouldn't it be such an embarrassment? That would mean that I had done it all under yours and the council's noses, and there is not one shred of proof. One of many humiliations. You have been so tired, haven't you? So much pain and suffering in the Paras family. Rasha had the right idea in abandoning you three, but Mara wouldn't have had the sense to leave if someone had shown her the door. Natas paused at the desk again. He wanted to strike that rock against the surface. Do not speak of them, either. Kelowna spat up. Oh. Solanka wiped up the mess with Natas's ceremonial cloak. Poor child. She doesn't sleep well. But thank you for not yelling. It frightens her. Natas pointed at the door. Get out. Solanka stood. I am not a practitioner of the forbidden arts. I wouldn't dare to risk it, not now that I have a child. But I am angry with you. You have not been to visit since Keloth's death, and you did not send one blessing to the child of your supposed dearest friend. I know that we are enemies, but one might think you would extend her some kindness for the supposed closeness you shared with her father. I am sure she has no need of my blessing. Now go. Solanka laughed darkly. She crossed him and thrust Kelowna into his arms. There is no evil plot at hand, at least not from me. From you, I'm not so sure. At least look at the future of the Nieb. She looks sick. Natas tried to return her to Solanka. She's not sleeping well, poor thing, and she's losing weight, not gaining it, which is not good. Look at her. Solanka folded her arms. If it weren't for the fact that Solanka was his best friend's wife, and everyone would know he was the one who killed her thanks to their long-standing animosity toward one another, and her regular proclamations that he intended to kill her, Natas would have found a way to eliminate her long ago. But for now, there was nothing he could do except look at her daughter. Kelowna had heavy dark rings beneath her eyes that suggested she had not been sleeping well for a long time. And while her skin had at first looked pale, now, under the clearer torchlight, he noted the sallow tint. Bruises mottled her fingers and hands, as if she had been clenching and reaching for something. Kelowna squirmed, uncomfortable, her face scrunching. She's very sick. Do you really think I have any time to do anything except tend to her and listen to you? I may always be searching for ways to torment you, but that doesn't mean I have time for other hobbies. Solanka smirked. I am certain you could find a way. Now take your daughter. Go find a specialist. She is ill, and stop holding her with gloves on. You shouldn't need a non-Nieb to remind you of what that does to a child. Natas returned her to Solanka. And stop holding her with gloves on. You shouldn't need a non-Nieb to remind you of what that does to a child. Natas returned her to Solanka. You know, you can be glad there are no practitioners of the forbidden arts. Solanka took Kelowna back, but she did not remove her gloves. Stepping away, she continued to stare at him. The harshness glimmered in her eyes. Otherwise, your whole family would be cursed. You'd be condemned to never find happiness, and to always be alone. But you can't blame a curse for that, can you? Some people are alone because they deserve to be. In the end, you are the greatest curse you'll ever bear. Natas resisted the urge to lash out at her. Get out. Now. Shaking her head, Solanka strode away. You know it's true. You may have the Council of Elders wrapped around your grasping fingers, but not even they can justify letting you inflict yourself on one of our daughters. She stopped short as Sonara, the head of the Council of the Elders, entered the room. Solanka laughed abruptly and left. Sonara, a slender, silver-haired woman with heavy wrinkles along her eyes and cheeks, clasped her hands before herself. You were angry. She was one of the wisest and most skilled Nieb to live, and yet she regularly offered statements so obvious a child could make them. Yes. Garalwe and I have looked the other way on many occasions, Natas. Sonara angled her head to the side. But we cannot permit the death of a Nieb unless it is absolutely essential. If Solanka vanishes, I am very much aware of your stance on this. Natas gestured toward the door. And as Solanka continues to enter my private study chambers at her leisure, and without deadly consequence, it should be obvious that I have honored your wishes. I only wish to make certain you understand the Council's feelings on this matter. Come. Sonara lifted her hand. Walk with me. There was no purpose in arguing with her. Natas walked beside her to the landing and down the broad curving staircase. The temple here was built within a series of hills, then shored up and strengthened, with towers and walls to provide greater protection. His private study was in the second highest point, a suitable distance away from any who wanted to bother him. Not that it was sufficient enough for Solanka. He still hadn't determined how she made it up there without ever being found until she wanted to be. Sinara held his arm tight as they took the staircase down. You don't feel well today. I'm fine. Are you eating enough? There's no reason why I wouldn't be. Sinara patted his hand. I know that this has been hard for you. You have served the Nieb and Iram and all of the worlds below with great resolve. We are deeply grateful to you. You have told me many times. Natas wished the small talk would end. She wasn't going to tell him until they reached the bottom of the staircase and carried on for a while longer. If she was going to make him wait, she could at least do it in silence. But no. This was all a prelude to the refusal. You like hearing it nonetheless. Sinara patted his arm and continued along. Unlike Solanka, her dark eyes had become murky, and yet they almost always shone with warmth. I remember the first day you came to us. You were so uneasy. It was adorable, but look at what you have done. I hope that you are proud, because I am proud of you. It has been my privilege to serve. Natas resisted sighing. She had that look. It was going to be no again. You do not need to be concerned about my well-being. I am Natas. Sinara tightened her grip on his arm, her tone chastising. I will always be concerned for you and your brothers. These past 12 years have been so hard for all of you. Someone should worry. It does no good. So you think. But it lets you know you are cared for. And I do care for you and your family very much. Rawath should come see us soon. The wounds to his mind are greater than he wishes to admit, and Hakar would do well to come too. I have advised it. They reached the bottom of the staircase, and Sinara tugged his arm slightly to the right. Sunlight flowed through the broad but high windows, all flung open to greet the afternoon. The air here smelled bright, rich with the scents of crushed berries and juiced apples. At least 24 young Nieb and Mache were outside in the courtyard, mashing and mixing all manner of fruit in preparation for the centennial feast and the festival of the Nieb in a few months. Their laughter contradicted his own mood. I hope they listen. Sinara sighed. She smiled as she peered out the window. This year's festival has much to live up to. I presume you will come when it is open to outsiders. Is there a reason I wouldn't? Natas asked. I have always come when it has been allowed. Then I will be glad to welcome you again this year. Sinara continued to speak of random matters and various concerns as they proceeded down the hall. They were now on the first floor, nearing the family quarters, but instead of taking a left at the great hall, she guided him toward the hall of creation, then opened another smaller door that led into the lover's garden. Natas hesitated. For those Nulamd, it was a common, though not required, location for the first meeting of a husband and wife after the youngest reached the age of 24. The domed chamber was home to more than a dozen hidden arbors, scattered beneath great flowering bushes, ivies, and a few trees. The floor was no longer red-brown marble, but carefully tended grass and velvet-soft moss. The air here was always warm, always perfumed, always serene. Light rose from the golden blossoms of the alkira trees, making it seem as if it was perpetually bathed in candlelight. Tiny gold flecks rose from the blossoms, scattering across the chamber. Do you feel how peaceful this place is, Natas? Sinara released his arm and stepped away. Yes. Natas answered slowly. Why had Sinara brought him here? His one consolation was at least there were no other Nulamd couples transitioning from betrothal to marriage in this place. Are you the one who will bring peace to your marriage, or do you wish to marry one of our daughters so that you will find this peace? I have little peace, and peace is not what I am seeking. What do you want me to see here? Natas demanded. The council has denied your request again, Natas. I'm sorry. Bitter disappointment tinged Natas's mouth. He clenched his right fist. So why not tell me upstairs? Why drag me all the way down here? Turning, he paced away. It was cruel to do it this way. Natas. Sinara waited to speak further until he turned. She searched him with soft but piercing eyes. I am sorry that it has to be this way. We think very highly of you, but we cannot give you one of our daughters if you are not suitably matched. At least he had not told his brothers he had applied again. As far as they knew, the last time he had petitioned for this was 11 years ago. Then perhaps next year will bring with it greater fortune. Natas, I know you were hurt by this, but I brought you here because I want to understand what it is that you want from a Nieb wife, and I knew the voice of this place would do that. You are clearly lonely and desire companionship, even if sexual desire has not yet awakened, and the responsibility to continue your family's line has fallen to you. You need a wife sooner rather than later. This peace that one feels here, you can find it elsewhere, If you wish to court another woman and bring her here to the lover's garden for the locking, we will allow that, even though it goes against our traditions. You may bring more than one until you find your Viscaro. But I'm afraid that that is the most that we can offer you at this time. So you think it's not possible? Natas glanced about the chamber. It was mystical and beautiful all at once, resonating the delight and joy that so many Nulamd couples had found in this place. Natas. Sonara took his hands. Hers was much smaller and far more wrinkled, the bones as delicate as a songbird's. Your mind is a dark and terrifying place, with great walls and heavy barriers, not so much unsuitable for an Nieb as difficult and terrifying and requiring a very specific type. Even here in this place I can feel your anguish and the whisper of memories and experiences you've tried to lock away. In many places it is raw and scarred, hostile more than many Nieb have seen. I knew it from the moment I met you. We owe you much, and you have the depth and heights of our gratitude, but I think you may find greater love and happiness if you lock with a woman who does not have to walk so closely to you as a Nieb would. You can experience this. She gestured to the lover's garden, but not, I think, with a Nieb. Perhaps. Natas wanted to avoid looking at her. It was taking almost all his strength and focus to keep everything shrouded. The only thing worse than the denial was if she knew how much it stung. You can find happiness and understanding elsewhere, and you will always have our friendship. And for that I am grateful. Natas nodded tightly. Regardless of the decision, my dedication to the Nieb and to Iram will not wane. However, speak plainly to me now. Is this your way of telling me to no longer request consideration for the Nulami? You may request consideration as many times as you choose, but as your friend, I do not recommend that you continue. After all that has happened, you and your family need stability, and I would point out that if someone had been found today, you would have to wait another 20 years at least before you could lock with her. The festival of the Viscaro is 8 months away. Prepare yourself for that, and find your comfort there. You cannot wait much longer. Your advice is appreciated. Natas moved toward the door. Natas, don't leave. Sonara followed. Her long brown piece skirt and the beads of her woven belt rustled with her steps. I need to go to a dark place. It would be best if you did not accompany me. Sonara sighed. She clasped her hands before herself. You may send for any of us if you need us. We will always be here for you, whatever it is that you need, even if it is not what you want. Natas made no further acknowledgement. He closed the door, then walked briskly to the stairs. The days had not gone as planned in any sense lately. His mind ached like his soul, and given all that was at stake, perhaps it was for the best that today had not been the day he had been matched. The problem was that perhaps that day would never come. And that concludes Chapter 1. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you would like to read more, you can purchase a copy on Amazon for 99 cents. It, as well as Locked and Alone, the other 2 novellas in this little mini-series, as well as Identity Revealed, the first book in the Tue-Rah Chronicles, in which Natas, of course, plays a significant role, will be on sale for 99 cents for at least 1 more week. And then I've got to take the prices back up. So go ahead and pick up your copy, and if you've read it and enjoyed any of these and would be so kind as to leave a review, I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.